tied round their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turn round and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in summertime.
Well, thank you and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Thorrington and I'm a civil celebrant. Before I commence the service, I've been asked by the family to extend to you all a very kind invitation to join them after this service at the Edelong Bowling Club, which is at 103 Springwood Street, Umina, for some light refreshments there, and where you'll be able to continue this celebration of Anthony's life. And so to begin, we're gathered here today in remembrance as we celebrate the life of a special man, Anthony Stephen Collins, and give support to his family and friends. We all knew Mr. Collins as Anthony or Anth, and together we've come to say our goodbyes to him. Anthony's passing has been a great loss. His memory is now going to be with you always, in your hearts, wherever you may travel far and wide. And so we gathered together to share this moment, to give thanks for the privilege of knowing Anth, for being his family member or his friend, and for being numbered amongst those who have shared in his love and in his life. And of course, death unites us all in a number of ways. Anth's death now demands that we all put aside for a moment in time our cares, our work, our businesses, and even our pleasures, to join together as fellow mourners who share a common bond of love and respect for Anth. And it's very fitting, that we should reflect on all those who have gone before us. As we travel through our lives, we realise that the love and friendship shared with those close to us is somewhat like a loan. And no matter whether that loan is long or short, the grief felt after the loss of that love or friendship can be great. But grief and love are two very special and human emotions that we all experience at some time during our lifetime. And so we're reminded that the grief we now feel, it's because we have loved. And therefore this grief is a privilege. It's a measure of feelings. And it says something about all that's been given and all that's been shared. And we need to understand this when thinking about Anth and saying our goodbyes to him. We do what you're all doing here today. We look to comfort one another in our grief. And because we share the burden, we lighten it. And because we divide the pain, it can just sometimes seem that little bit less intense. So grief is really nature's way of healing. So you will all remember Anthony as a living, vital presence. And that memory can bring refreshment to your hearts and perhaps even strengthen you in times of trouble. Well, my friends, I've been asked to commence the eulogy with some biographic details, and I'm indebted to the family, Ken, Trish, Christine and Luke, for the information that I have. Anthony Stephen Collins was welcomed into the world on the 25th of September 1975 at Bankstown, New South Wales, the eldest of two children born to Christine and to Kenneth Collins. There was Anthony and Luke, and Anth is now survived by both of his parents and his brother Luke. When he was born, Anthony developed pneumonia and was given only a 50-50 chance of surviving. However, he toughed it out to grow and have a healthy childhood. Anth attended the Immaculate Heart of Mary School at Sefton, with his high school education taking place at St Benedict's College at Auburn. In Year 12, Anthony was dux of his class. After leaving St Benedict's, Anth did work experience in a solicitor's office, which prompted his mum and dad to contemplate a comfortable retirement. But alas, this was not to be. The law didn't turn him on, and Anth worked with his dad in the metal fabrication business for a number of years. Unfortunately, his heart wasn't there either, and Anthony had a few other diverse jobs, but never really found his niche in life. During his younger years, Anth loved fishing with his Uncle Mike, his late Uncle Mike, his dad and brother Luke, and the hunter-gatherer instincts were well satisfied when they ate what they caught. Another of Anthony's pastimes which he enjoyed was karate, which he did 2 nights a week, although Ken does say that maybe it was the McDonald's he especially enjoyed when they were on their way home. Anthony loved flying with his dad, especially when they performed aerobatics, and Ken says that Anth could have been a professional pilot. Another time of enjoyment for Anth was at family gatherings, no matter the significance of the occasion, Christmas, Easter, birthdays, or even just a barbecue get-together. Anthony loved all of his family, but especially his grandmother Mim, and also his friends. When it came to his friends, Anthony really valued them and kept them close to his heart, even though they were widely dispersed, some of them as far away as the USA. He had, I'm told, an amazing... Pardon me. He had an amazing gift of memory and could recall details of things we had all forgotten, says the family. Anth loved music, especially live bands, not to everyone's taste, of course, and he really didn't like it when his dad sang Puff the Magic Dragon really loudly in the car. From the time he was diagnosed with cancer, Anthony displayed his courage and stoicism by never complaining once. He rationally and fatalistically accepted the challenge, undergoing bouts of chemotherapy. Having endured the chemo, however, Anthony then declined further treatment, opting instead to enjoy his last days with those he loved. He spoke eloquently. Some of his writing on Facebook when he was sick would make us laugh or cry, say the family. So Ant spent his last days at his mother's house at East Maitland in what he called his man's cave, where he was cared for by his mum Christine 24/7, also his auntie Val and little big brother Luke. Anthony maintained his wicked sense of humour right to the end, some of it too black for here, I'm told. For instance, he insisted that the noisy builder working next door to his man cave really could accommodate a nail gun in his anatomy. Well, that's enough from me just for a little while, because I'm going to ask Anthony's brother Luke to come up to continue Anne's story. Thanks very much, Luke.
Hey everyone, you'll have to bear with me, I'm quite nervous, quite afraid that I'm either going to say something inappropriate or break down, and those two things are probably a foregone conclusion anyway. So I'd like to thank everyone that travelled to come up, and especially those that travelled quite a distance to pay their respects to my brother. I'd also like to thank my mum, dad and Trish and Val for the sacrifices that they made in the last months before Anthony passed. It was a monumental effort. And I guess this is being recorded for Anthony's friends that aren't able to be here, and I wanted to say thank you to Kim, Amber and Roger for all of their support. I guess when I think of my brother, there's a line from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas that kind of springs to mind, and it's there goes one of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant never even considered for mass production. And my brother was certainly a unique human being. There's no one who was quite like him. And I guess some of the qualities that spring to mind are that he had an amazing capacity to be selfless. Even on, I guess it's best typified by the fact that his last words were "have a party." That was the last thing he said on this planet. And it wasn't a one-off thing. He said it twice over the course of 6 hours. He wasn't able to speak so much, but it was obviously occupying his mind, the fact that he wanted us to rejoice in the fact and to live on and to, just to celebrate rather than to be in a lot of pain and mourn, which is inevitable. And my brother was one of the funniest men I ever knew. He even made me laugh on his last day. where he described the indignity of being reduced to wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt and how happy he was that he vomited on it. He was also one of the smartest guys I ever met, incredibly well read. And even on an absolute arsenal of medication, just stuff that had put down a small pachyderm, he was able to come out with these rapier quips, that just, even on a good day, I'd struggle to be that quick. And he didn't lose his mental faculties, that was one of the gifts, I guess, of the time that I spent with him. And I guess he was incredibly protective as well. He loved me very, very much. And he didn't like me driving at night. He didn't like me being, he just worried a lot. And my brother was also an incredibly sensitive guy. And it was, the world could be a bit of a tough place for him, a lot. And sometimes that lent itself to incredible kindness and compassion, and sometimes it lent it to becoming quite abrasive as well, to try and protect that stuff, and I loved him for both of those things. I really did. When we were young, we've always been quite close, but I imitated him. I absolutely loved him, and I credit him with so many things I did just to be able to keep up with him, and it made me who I am, having a brother that was much, much smarter and much better at so many things, and chasing after him, it drove me to do so much. And a lot of the passions that I got for science and history, and it was just so that I'd be able to talk with him about it. And I carry that stuff even now. And I don't know, I was looking up how to write a eulogy, and I've never had to do it before, and it said to talk about his likes and dislikes. And his likes were pretty simple. He really liked high-potency marijuana. He really liked Peter Jackson extra mild cigarettes, Coca-Cola with ice in it, and the internet. And those were his favourite things. And if he had that quadrant of happiness, he was sorted. And I probably won't talk about his dislikes because they were quite numerous. Wasn't the most tolerant of fellows, my brother, but again, that used to crack me up. I absolutely loved it. And I guess another thing I'd like to mention is a really good measure of a man is their friends. And the people that my brother associated with, and the people that he let get close to him, are a distinctly good measure of who he was. They were, I guess it's one thing that I'm very, very grateful for in his life is that he grew up with such an amazing circle of friends, that got to see the real him. They got to see his quirkiness. They got to see, a lot of the stuff that it was quite difficult to get close to my brother, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. I loved spending time with my brother. I really did. We went and saw a lot of good bands together. All these kids that you see these days wearing Ramones t-shirts, my brother and I actually saw them, and it was one of the best days ever. Being a teenager with my brother was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, a lot of the teenage behaviours tended to continue, but I guess some of the best times and happiest nights of my life were sitting around, smoking pot, listening to punk rock tracks and 60s psych music, and talking about really obscure stuff like quantum mechanics, and it was just amazing. An amazing way to spend time. And his illness had a really profound change on Anthony, and a lot of the things that he struggled with in life kind of crystallised in the last few months, and he changed. I guess it forced him into a precipice to make a lot of choices about what he wanted, and it was a beautiful process to watch. I guess a lot of that abrasive, defensive kind of edge that he had just melted away, and he just became that real, authentic self. And I honestly think that they were some of the happiest months of his life. They really were. He got to spend a lot of time with family. He got to do a lot of, what he loved most. And had a lot of people come and visit him, and he got showered with the love. I guess it's kind of like something you say at a eulogy, in that, he faced his death bravely, but my brother did. He was a stubborn bastard. He really was. He wasn't letting go in a hurry. And he held on for grim death for a long time, just because he wanted to wring every little bit of last fun that he could out of everything. And I couldn't be more proud of him. I guess he taught me how to undertake that process and how to die. And I hope I can face it the way he did. I really do. I'm not sure if I will, to be perfectly honest. I guess to sum up, the debt I owe my brother is enormous. I guess a margin of it I hope I paid back in his last months, but I'm incredibly grateful for my time with him. Can't imagine my life without him. We're like two little weird peas in a pod. And no one really understood us the way we understood each other. And now I guess it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for everything, Anthony, and sleep well, big brother.
Well done, Luke. I think your brother would be very proud of you now. I know that probably deserved a standing ovation, mate, because you spoke beautifully. Well done. Thank you. Let's do that. Thank you. Thanks, Luke. Well done. You're not allowed to do this to the celebrant, though, okay? Thanks, mate. Well done. Well, I have here an open letter which I've been asked to read on behalf of Anthony's mum, Christine. And again, I know where you get your eloquence from, Luke, because your mum is very eloquent too. When she says, "If only I had one more day with you, I would tell you again how much I love you, how very proud I am of you, how much courage you have, how when nursing you, you never failed to say thanks, Mama, or no thanks, Mama. How much you made me laugh even as sick as you were, how many times I felt not worthy of your praise. How many things you taught me about patience, how much family means, tolerance, and most importantly about unconditional love. It was a privilege caring for you, my beautiful son. If only I had one more day to kiss your forehead and say I love you. Rest now, my Anth, and forever be at peace. Your loving mother, to her beloved son." Beautifully done. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you. Yeah. Well, friends, just to conclude the eulogy, and again I must stress there that a lot of this eulogy I had came from Ken. For just about a year, Anthony lived with his mother Christine at East Maitland, where he received the ongoing care and palliative treatment he required. It was in the end his mother Chris, who was his real carer, and other family members also visited him there to help him, to support him, and to love him as much as they possibly could. The palliative care staff kept Anthony as comfortable as they could, but sadly, he just wasn't able to recover. I've been asked by Anthony's father, Ken, to acknowledge several individuals for the nurturing of Anthony over these last 12 months. Firstly, Anthony's mother, Christine, Ant's auntie Valda, and his brother Luke, for the very special love and support you all lavished upon Anthony. You all treated Anthony so beautifully and brilliantly that he was left in no doubt how you all felt about him and he well knew that he was an integral and much-loved part of our family. Then there is a staff belonging to the palliative care team who visited Anthony every day and sometimes twice each day. Their wonderful care and professionalism and even their devotion to Anthony was a most marvellous thing. They came and sat with Anth, they talked with him, held his hand and gave him hugs. No wonder Anthony called them all his angels. Ken says that there are really only two words he can now say to all of those staff. Thank you. But those words come to you all from the very bottom of Ken's and the family's hearts. And so it was there at East Maitland that Anthony Stephen Collins, aged 38 years, quietly and rather mercifully departed this life in the early hours of Thursday, the 31st of July. He was not alone, for Christine was by his side, holding him and loving him. Ken says, when Anthony passed over, the family stayed with him for many hours because we knew that would have pleased him, unquote. Anthony will be extremely sadly missed by all those who knew and loved him. Described as a good-hearted, independent bloke, he was a people person, a loving, caring man. He would be the first to say that he had a good life, living it on his own terms and doing the things, as you've heard, which he liked to do. As many of you know or realised, Anthony was a very sharp, intelligent man with an extremely broad general knowledge. Of course, some of you would also know that he had a rather dark sense of humour at times, which he put to good use, especially during the latter stages of his life. It was probably Anth's way of dealing with his situation and emotions, for he has really had a very, very tough time of it. He was dearly loved and well looked after by all of his family. Ken and Christine both saying that he was a very beloved and irreplaceable son, a much-loved brother, cousin and nephew, as well as a good and loyal friend. His work here, ladies and gentlemen, is now done. May he rest in peace indeed. Well, my friends, the family have put together a little DVD presentation now, so I direct your attention to the television screen over there on the left-hand side of the chapel. Thank you.
Take me, break me, tell me a good one, and maybe I'll cry. Go with me, show me, tell me a good one, and maybe I'll die. Lately I've been dancing in ceiling fans, into the kitchen, and out the back gate. Well, I know it sounds strange, but it could be the other way round to the ground where I know I must stay.
I've been dancing in ceiling fans, circled in secrets, playing a game. Well, I know it sounds strange, but it could be the other way around in a town where they don't know your name.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That was a nice little reminder of some happier times. To Chris, to Ken and Trish, to Luke, to Mel and Scott, to Sammy and Sean, to Valda, and to all other relatives and friends, whether present or afar, we extend our deepest sympathy. We come with them as mourners, we share their grief. When at other times we grieve over lost opportunities, lost health, even lost wealth. Whenever a loss brings sorrow, it is our part to turn the affliction to some wise purpose in our life's experience. We cannot think then of Anthony's death without resolving to live a fuller and more meaningful life of our own, because he was loved, because we are here. Even now he exerts his influence on us. His death then caused us to get our values into perspective. Let us pray. Would you like to join me in the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy